Hey ladies and gents, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 to What If Naruto Had Returned by Death. So where we left off in the last part, Naruto basically found out that he had this ability and that the person that killed him was actually Ren. He now decides that he has to figure out how to pretty much like make them trust him, so they don't just kill him in that. So that's what Naruto is going to be doing now. Now, there's no light goal or anything like that, and I think part 3 is going to be the final for, yeah, definitely. I can make this in the 3-part. Yeah. Alright, so part 3 is going to be the final, so, we're in the midpoint now. So Naruto, wakes up and he's facing Rem and Ram, and he decides that he can't really do anything yet, obviously, he just woke up. He can't really do anything. So he just pretends to just, be doing his normal stuff. And this is when he realizes that every time is pretty much at least a little bit different. The outcome isn't too different, but it is slightly different. Like when he's meeting Roswald for the first time or second time, he might not actually be able to get the exact same outcome. Instead of being like a worker, he might just be some guy that just kind of is there. So that's kind of what Naruto realizes here. And obviously Naruto does meet Roswald, and he still thinks he's a clown. That kind of happens pretty normally. And Naruto is going through these lives, and eventually one day he ends up going to the village with Rem and Ram, pretty much where similar events to canon would actually happen, where they are going through the village and they're doing stuff, and eventually they realize that Naruto is cursed, and they go back because they realize that there might be something wrong with the kids. So they all go back to the forest, and Naruto and Rem, that is, actually go back to the forest, and Naruto sees Rem's demon-like transformation when she actually does start fighting against all of the dogs and the, all that kind of stuff. And Naruto begins to kind of sympathize with her power, because it kind of reminds him of his own. She gets a lot more rowdy. Okay, that's not the right word for it. The more, a better word would be bloodlusted, out of control, stuff like that. Maybe not rowdy, but you get the point. So Naruto then, seeing this, decides that he is going to actually show one of the things that he's learned in his couple days that he's actually been able to be alive and not die to Rem and Ram. So Naruto, doing this, holds out his hand as blue chakra begins to spiral in it. He makes a giant Rasengan, and he just slams it down into the ground, completely killing the rest of the monsters, including the shaman in the area, which also removes all of the curses that anybody got from the shaman or the dogs or anything like that. Later on, they do return to the mansion, and Naruto can actually feel that his emotions towards Rem is growing more than his emotions towards Amelia, and that's he thinks that's a little bit interesting. So Naruto does end up deciding to go to the capital with Amelia when she is summoned there, and just like the original, they are escorted by Wilhelm and Felix, I think their names are. So eventually they get to the capital, and Naruto notices some hoodlums that pretty much were attacking him at the beginning are now attacking this girl, and he decides to go over there and help her out. So he does that, and she basically tells him off, and Naruto's like, okay, chill. So Emilia then tells Naruto not really to come with her to the castle where the selection and all that kind of stuff would be happening, but decides to go anyway as a servant for the girl he saved earlier named Priscilla, who is also running, and Naruto didn't really know that at first, but he does now. Emilia is obviously shocked by the fact that Naruto is there, and then Felt is announced as the 5th candidate, and everybody's kind of shocked by that because she's just some girl in the slums. And people do what they do at canon. They start calling Emilia a half-elf, and how they look pretty similar to Satella. Naruto would then defend her and decides to call himself her knight in order to try to help this situation, but that doesn't really do anything but make it worse. So with this, Julius, the guy who originally challenges Subaru, challenges Naruto a fight. Naruto would accept it, And because of the fact that Naruto can use chakra here, I'm gonna just be 100% honest. Naruto would easily win this fight. He literally just makes a couple shadow clones. Yeah, let me actually explain how this fight goes, just to put a picture in your mind here real quick. So Naruto makes a bunch of shadow clones. They form up in a line, and one of them grabs onto Julius. They then swing him around, similar to what, Naruto did with Sasuke when he swung him around and slammed him into a cliff. That's kind of what they do here. They just lift him up hundreds of feet into the air. Keep in mind, this is hundreds of shadow clones, and just slam Julius into the ground, knocking him out on impact. Now, obviously, Emilia doesn't really take too kindly to this, and she doesn't really like the fact that Naruto just, almost killed some just random knight. So she decides to make Naruto stay in the capital for the time being, or at least, she thinks Naruto's never going to come back, but, Naruto, she doesn't need to know Naruto wants to come back. So Naruto begins pretty much training in the capital, and we'll just say Rem is there to keep it similar to canon, because why not? So he begins training in the capital like I just said, and what he's going to be trying to do is enter Sage Mode. So Naruto will, basically just begin meditating and trying to get that natural, chakra energy to begin going into his body. But just like how it was with chakra, it is different to have to be able to use it. Naruto is not also used to having to balance out his mana along with all of that other stuff, because Naruto, has that here, like I was saying in the last part. So with this actually happening, Naruto would begin training with this, meditating, and eventually, and he hasn't actually learned Sage Mode yet, mind you, he enters his mindscape, where he begins to talk to Kurama. So Naruto obviously doesn't know his name is Kurama at this point, but he does end up talking to him, and they're beginning to have a conversation about what exactly the fuck is happening with Naruto's power. Why does he keep, basically just reincarnating? Kurama is inside of Naruto, and he's been able to keep his memories this entire time, so he knows exactly what is happening, and because of that, he decides that he wants to help Naruto out a little bit. It's not going to be to the point where he's just being like, yeah, Naruto, I'm going to help you out to the point where I'm going to let you undo the seal, and I'm not going to, cause you any problems. No, he just means, or I just mean that Naruto is going to be, able to call upon, a small amount of the chakra, when he actually needs to. Naruto, like I was saying, is not actually going to be able to use Sage Mode just because he's not going to be able to, efficiently, at least not yet, balance out his mana, chakra, and all of that different kind of stuff combined, especially since he has basically never used his actual mana, which is going to be something that Naruto is going to be doing over this little training period. He has somebody, read exactly what his mana type is, and finds out that his is going to be. So Naruto here is going to have both yin and yang magic. Now, I just did this because, Naruto pretty much never uses wind chakra for, the majority of the series. Out of every chapter, most of it is just, basic chakra or Nine-Tails chakra. He doesn't actually use, genuine techniques that, require elements, because Naruto has, wind and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna give him yin and yang just to, give him that extra little bit of spice to be able to do it pretty much like that. So that is what Naruto is going to have here. So now the question is, what abilities is Naruto actually going to have? That is a really good fucking question, because the abilities are just completely weird and wacky, and you can't really understand what yang magic would actually be, or what yin magic would actually be in its basic version, before people refined it into abilities. I have absolutely no idea. So I am just going to take abilities from the people that Naruto is around and have them teach it to him, because otherwise I have absolutely no idea how I would even make abilities, because I could just make random shit. I could literally do that, and none of you would have been the wiser. But I'm not going to, because I'm a nice guy like that. I'm going to be honest and just tell you, that this shit is completely random and I can do whatever I want. So I'm just gonna give Naruto a few abilities from like people who are already in the series, and just so he could have some like practice with using his gate, so Naruto eventually will be able to like, you know, be able to balance it and use Sage Mode. So one of these abilities is going to be a Yang magic that pretty much like reverts objects or recovers objects back to their original state. It's pretty much used by, I think his name is Darius? Yeah, I think so. But that's going to be like his recovery version of it. And then we're also just going to give Naruto just pretty much a basic light ability that basically fires a ray of light from his fingers, kind of a thing. It's like a heat ray, I guess you could say. But that's pretty much all we're going to give him for the time being, just so Naruto can practice using his gate. And if you want me to come up with like an actual creative ability in part 3, so that Naruto can actually have like a mana ability that he's going to use over chakra, let me know and I'll definitely do that. Like, I definitely could. I just didn't really see a point in doing it because it just doesn't really need to happen as cool as it would be. But then that being said, it would be cool, so if you want to see it, I'll do it. So after all of this training, Naruto finally decides to return from the capital. He's about to, you know, like a mile around or so away from like the mansion, but Naruto is actually knocked out, completely off guard, so, you know, he gets knocked out. Hours later, maybe even like almost a day, we don't actually know how like, you know, actually long it is. He wakes up in this cave meeting Betelgeuse for the first time. And Betelgeuse is one of the most weird and disgusting fucking things you're gonna see. So he's a really fucked up guy. So Naruto, seeing him in front of him, he just quickly breaks the chains and sends Betelgeuse flying across the room with a like massive punch. Naruto then, you know, makes a absolute fuck ton of shadow clones, because why not? They all charge up some Rasengans, and Naruto does a good old-fashioned Uzumaki barrage or Rasengan barrage on this man, and he kills that slothly man. Naruto then pretty quickly leaves the cave and tries to make his way to the mansion pretty quickly, but he notices the absolutely massive new form of Puck, the, you know, little ice creature dude, and gets not capitated, that doesn't really make sense. He gets decapitated from a great distance. Not really, I don't even know how Puck did that, like decapitating. Like, like a mile, like a literal 100 yards away, it just fucking had gone. Like, okay. Naruto then wakes up and decides he needs to make a plan to be able to save everybody. Or not like actually wakes up, but he's just kind of like chilling in the capital, so he decides he needs to get back a lot faster, and Naruto knows exactly how he's going to do it. However, that'll be for part 3. See you guys then.